Well, hello, friends. Welcome one and welcome all. I can't offer much in this outdoor hall, but sit here and rest. You must be weary, and I'll share with you Tales of Tyria. This week on Tales of Tyria, we've got a whole bunch of info. We've got special guild missions, all the info talking about that, and then Guardian. Class-based, we haven't done that forever. Stick around. It's gonna be great. Yes, welcome one, welcome all, welcome to another exciting episode of Tales of Tyria right here on the Sound Strategy Network in co-production with Team Legacy at teamlegacy.net and sound-strategy.net. You can also find us on the YouTubes at Sound Strategy Network. All right, so with that out of the way, also talesoftyria.com, by the way. Talesoftyria.com is where you can find all the show notes for this week's show, including all past shows, etc. So definitely check that out if you're looking for the links that we talked about in this week's show. That's where you'll find it. I am Bridger. Glad you got a hold of the program, however you may have found it. Tell a friend or two or three or maybe a couple hundred. If you're just going around in Curse Shore, just spam the chat and tell people how awesome Tales of Tyria is. You'll probably get banned for spamming, but I will love you for it for life. So there's a trade-off there. Also, send us feedback. Feedback at talesoftyria.com is how you can do that. Now, let me introduce my special co-hosts for this week. I've got three special guests who have never been on the show before here, and they are experts on The Guardian in various flavors. First up, we have Sarat. Welcome to the show, sir.
Hey, what's up, guys?
So
how are you doing, Bridger?
You're going to be our PvE expert this week? Our dungeons
PvE,
man?
everything.
Also, we've got Vihar here, who is the World v. World Guardian, going to be giving us the lowdown on what works and what doesn't work in World versus World. Welcome, sir.
Hello, hello.
Good to see you here. And lastly, we have Yezhik, who is so good at structured PvP, you cannot see his face, lest you learn his build off of it. He's good at SPVP, not good at poker. You're going to look at his build and go, oh, he uses a staff bunker guardian. I knew it! So, yes, he's hiding behind a picture. So, welcome, sir.
Hey, what's up, what's up?
I may have taken that a little too far. All right, let's get started here, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm glad everything is working, by the way. I got to ask the chat because I didn't get a chance to test it now that I've made the changes. All right, so we're going to start with story time this week, ladies and gentlemen. We had a story sent in by one of our viewers, listeners. You never know which one it is because we've got the podcast and then we've got the YouTube channel and it's all the same. But here we have from Gaffo from Team Absinthe Guild in Koenig. He says, I have two little stories to share about the community. The first one was in South Sun Cove. There was a guy level 20-something dying and dying over and over. He wanted a pet, a reef drake, but he didn't want to wait until level 80. He asked me to escort him to get the pet, and I did. We finally got there, and an event, the Broodmother boss, would not allow us to get to the juvenile reef drakes. So I took it as a challenge and soloed the event while this guy just watched from a distance. Finally, I killed the boss and got him to the juvenile pets. He said thank you, and before I left, he told me to name his pet since I did all the work. Now there is a reef drake called Waffles somewhere in Tyria. The second story was a while ago in World v. World. I'm a mesmer running in the Borderlands when I saw a guy being attacked by 3 invaders downhill from where I was. He was going to be killed, so I placed a portal, jumped down the hill just as he got downed, sent some illusions and invaders, pushed them away with my greatsword, and placed my quickness elite to res him. He got up, and we both portaled to safety. Of course, he said thank you, and we moved along. I can't remember the names of the guys nor any details about them, but something drove me to help them. I've played other MMOs, including World of Warcraft, for a while, and in none of them have I felt the drive to help others just because I could. From Gaffo, Team Absinthe Guild, Koenig. That's a pretty awesome story, and it makes me really jealous that I, as an elementalist, could not do that. same thing that the Mesmer did, because we don't have an awesome portal that allows you to just be the freaking hero, Superman. I don't know. What about you guys? Sarat, have you felt more urge to cooperate and help people in Guild Wars 2 than in other games?
Oh, of course. Like, it's just the way the game's built. It's always meant to be just an open community. Like, you're always in a group when you're not really in a group. Just that's just how they built the whole network of it. I mean, when I'm out there, like, running with my friends and stuff, or we're just, like, out in Curse we see, like, a dead guy on the map that's just downed on the mini-map. We're just, hey, let's just take a detour, help that guy out. You know, just motivates you to do that in the game.
And nowadays you get to race them to it to see who gets the healing for your daily. But that's another story. All right. Let's see. Next one is a bit of feedback. This is from Benji. He says, quote, "Hello, Bridger. I'm sure that if anybody checks the Guild Wars 2 looking for group external site, you will see a huge list of COF speed farming posts for Xur warriors and mesmers for the time warp. Clearing a dungeon in 6 minutes, even with the max damage max DR, still nets you 4 to 10 gold per hour times 5 players times number of parties doing it. What are your thoughts about how this huge amount of gold injected into the system distorts the economy, and does ANET have a vested interest to not nerf this path due to gold to gem exchange rates? Great show. Keep up the good work, Benji." That's a very interesting question. It does seem to be, from what I can tell, a vast majority of people preferring, if they're farming just for gold or for money in general, to go on this particular path of COF because it does net you a bunch of gold, and it can be so super fast that it's ridiculous. I actually just ran it the other day, and I think it's so fast because you can just run past people. That seems to be the main issue. What do you think, Sarat? I assume you're running this one a lot.
We run it a lot. We're doing a lot more fractals progression, more so than just running for money. But we've done COF a lot just to get people their gear, because everyone wants to look like they're on fire, right? It looks cool.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so, but yeah, I've seen this a lot, like, especially when we're out there, and, you know, there's people like LFG, we need 4 Berserker Warriors, Mesmer with a Time Warp, we just blow right through it. And, I mean, if that's what they want to do, there's tons of other ways to make money in the game. Maybe not nearly as efficiently, but pretty close. So, I mean, if that's just their thing, it's still pretty dependent. You've got to have a Mesmer, you got to have 4 warriors, right? So there's still some restriction and a barrier to entry to get it done, right? So it's just to each their own.
Yezek, what do you think? Does this money that's getting injected into the economy so quickly, is that something that ArenaNet's going to quote-unquote fix or change and force people to fight all the mobs they're skipping?
Of course, yeah. There was Sorrow's Embrace before. I know it's a hard dungeon right now, but before you could run the Path 1, Sorrow's Embrace, and literally the same thing in like 10 minutes, no problem. You could exploit the whole way there, skip like 3 bosses, do the end, loot the chest, and that's it. And they passed that really quick. So of course it's going to get fixed. People have nothing to worry about.
I'm kind of surprised it hasn't been fixed already. I've been hearing about this for a couple of weeks now. I mean, this particular email is at least 8 to 10 days old. I'm surprised we didn't get a hot fix that simply made it so the specific bosses or trash mobs that you can just simply run past will not leash and instead chase you wherever you go. I mean, Sarat, isn't that how most of the other MMOs always worked? You couldn't just run past trash mobs because they don't leash in dungeons.
That's true. But I mean, like in other raids and MMOs and stuff, you could skip mobs, or you just tell people to be really careful. We'll just kind of eke around this guy. So, I mean, it hasn't been, you know, just the whole running idea. Like, just blow past it. You'll get hit, but we'll get away from it, and it'll just de-aggro. It's just kind of a unique strategy to Guild Wars in general. But the whole idea, like, I think just their focus of where they're nerfing and not nerfing, because a lot earlier in the game we saw a lot of those karma nerfs, right? We saw a lot of those nerfs towards when you were at COF and you could get the double chests that showed that huge influx of molten cores and lodestones, right? Mm-hmm. And I guess they're more focused on getting things cleaned up. Like, we want things to be functional, not so much to be worried about, like, the injection of the economy, right? The bots had a big problem with that, and they fixed a lot of those problems. So it's just, like, you know, trying to prioritize things in the right way, right?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, for the longest time we were complaining about bots this, bots that, bots ruining everything, bots everywhere. I haven't heard or seen a single bot thread in at least a month and a half or so, maybe like a month or two, because they had a big bot ban in January, and I think they even had some before that, and they really cleaned it up. They must have done a huge way towards their detection information or simply implementing something that allows them to more easily ban, process, whatever it was. But it definitely seems to have fixed the problem from my point of view. All right, so let's jump into the news here, ladies and gentlemen, because we got a good bit of stuff to talk about, then we got to get to The Guardian. But here's the blog post about guild missions. So these actually sound a lot cooler than I thought they would, to be honest. The thing that got me was like the video here, which I'll pull up in a second, but they also go on to talk about the different types of guild missions. The bounty one is you have to go out and track down targets. So theoretically, when you trigger this, a target spawns somewhere on the map, and you have to, I don't know, either it tells you where they are, or it gives you some kind of a hint, and you have to figure that out. Maybe they spawn in random locations throughout different zones. That sounds pretty cool. Guild Trek. That sounds like a scavenger hunt almost. The Tyrian Explorer Society has a challenge for you. Guild Rush is some kind of a speed race. We saw a bit of that in the video. Let's take a quick look at the video here, and we can speculate as we're watching it. You guys probably, everybody who's seen who's watching this show or listening to it by now has seen this. It came out earlier in the week, but it's still worth pointing out some of the cool things that are going on in it. It's only about a minute and a half long, but this is showing off the jumping puzzle aspect of it. That looks so cool. I don't know about you guys, but some of the best times I ever had in Guild Wars 2 were the first day that the game came out, and our entire guild rushed to the jumping puzzle in the Eternal Battlegrounds, and we were trying to figure out the dark room. That was so cool.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's either like the funnest time or the most frustrating time, depending on who you look at.
But if you're sharing it with other people and they're also sharing their frustration and helping you, teaching you how to make things work, I don't know. That looks really cool.
Oh yeah, it does look neat. And just the fact that you have content that you can get everybody into that's not restrictive on party size, you know.
Definitely. And I'd love to see some jumping puzzles that are specifically related to guilds, so you can have people have to do things together. Now, this is a Guild Rush one, where you clearly get to basically play Mario Kart as chickens or ghost wolves, I guess. As a group, you're trying to race. It's very interesting. Now, the Guild Challenge, I can only assume that's like a large event, like a difficult outdoor event, like a dragon-type event, but maybe more difficult, more challenging, designed for organized groups. Is that what your guys got from that?
Yeah, like, I'm hoping it'll be, because kind of the dragons, if you do them right now, they have very limited mechanics. They're pretty predictable. So I'm hoping it really expands on that. And we saw like a little tidbit at the end there with the Karka. And remember, like, however you may feel about the Lost Shores event, right?
Yeah.
The way those Karka worked, it was just such a different type of mob that we're used to actually fighting. And when, you know, they jumped up and rolled over like 15 people and you just got to laugh at everyone that didn't get out of the way, maybe we'll see some more interesting mechanics that people could get like more used to, or they might have more punishment to them. Just a little bit more challenging in mechanics that we wouldn't really expect or see anywhere else in the game.
Gotcha. So I'm super excited about this. This is coming out tomorrow, actually, 26th, right? That's the big patch day, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So
tomorrow.
That is going to be exciting. I'm definitely going to be playing a lot of Guild Wars 2 tomorrow. Oh no, somebody wanted to do some board gaming tomorrow. I'm going to have to let them down gently. Okay, so that's very exciting. Now, there are some very interesting things to talk about with regards to the guild missions that have come up, and I apparently have just found a new blog post that came up that I'm going to have to try and read while we're doing the rest of the show. So there was a post about guild missions requiring high sort of levels of guild tech, like the upgrades that you can get for your guild. Art of War, politics, the things that allow you to get various things for your guild, like the weapons person, the people, the special bonuses to World v. World. Now, this post in particular kind of blew up because it essentially requires, let me just read it. Each mission type becomes available through an upgrade that is researched in the guild tech tree. The first one is Guild Bounties, which does require Art of War level 5. Now, this has thrown a lot of speculation. He says the first one is Guild Bounties. Does that mean you have to have Art of War level 5 before you can get any does that mean that maybe the other ones are on like art of like politics level 6 or politics level 5 or something to that effect? There's a lot of speculation where I don't think we have a clear answer exactly what this means, but here is the response from Isaiah Cartwright, who said, I know there have been some concerns about guild bounties being in the Art of War line. Our goal with this system is to give guilds activities and long-term progression that they can accomplish by working together as a guild. These missions are meant to be difficult and challenging not only to unlock, but to accomplish. We would also like to make every guild upgrade line valuable to every guild. Currently, Art of War is very focused on PvP and World vs. World, but our plan is to continue to add more guild upgrades in the Art of War line to accomplish this. These guild missions are the first step. Along with this system, we also added a number of new guild upgrades that guilds can earn. In the end, our goal for all of this content is to give guilds new goals and challenges to be accomplished once they have reached deeply into each line, as well as require guilds to have researched multiple lines to unlock some upgrades. We expect guild members to have to work together as a guild to earn influence needed to unlock these new missions, as well as overcome the challenge to missions themselves. In the future, we plan to continue to add more guild upgrades, blah, blah, blah. It's going to more stuff coming, and achievements, etc. So, what do you... There was a lot of stuff like going around and saying, no, I don't understand, it's not making any sense. What do you think, Yezek?
I think that's awesome. I really can't wait. I mean, our guild is not that big, and like some of the people in chat here, we don't have that many active members, but nonetheless, you know, we're fully upgraded, and I'm guessing like you don't need 100 people to do this, so with 10, 20 people tops, it's going to be a lot of fun. I really can't wait.
Some people in the chat and other people in this thread are saying things like, our guild is too small and we purposefully avoided Art of War because we never do World v World, so now everybody else is going to be enjoying guild missions and we are not. And some people are saying you're just QQing, and other people are saying, you know, that's a risk you took by not upgrading this. I don't know, Sarat, what is your thought? Is this just a bunch of people whining about things, or do they have a legitimate point here?
Well, as a leader of a small guild, I mean, I can count the members that we have actively playing like on 2 of my hands. So, and very rarely might I have to take off a shoe to count them all. But we have a fully upgraded guild, and I guess if you think about it, the demand for these guild missions kind of scales with the population of your guild, right? So if you have a handful of players that are playing actively, it shouldn't be too hard to get that influence anyway. I mean, we're fully upgraded. We have a handful of people, and some of them still aren't even level 80. But you're going to have a higher demand and a higher motivation to go and get that influence for your guild the more people you have. And if you have a smaller population of people that are in your guild, it's not going to be as much. And it doesn't mean you can't participate in them. They said that out there you're going to be doing these are kind of like just large dynamic events that guilds just kickstart instead of like the meta events that are related to the zone corely. So you can still participate in it, but you may not be the central kickstarter for the guild for the guild mission itself.
Yeah, and what I kind of see this as, to some degree, any guild that has been around since launch, even if they're small 5 or 10 man groups, it seems like there's enough influence there that they probably should have upgraded everything by this point. However, I do sort of understand what some of the smaller guilds said, that, you know, we spent our influence on, you know, the karma, you know, guild banners and other things because we didn't think we'd ever have to go into the Art of War line. So for them, it's going to take a little bit to unlock their access to these events, which is a bit unfortunate. But what do you think? It sounds like when they say the first one is going to require this, it sounds like to me they're going to give you access to some of these types, and you're going to have to unlock access to others by doing the first ones. Like, first you got to get bounties, and you have to do enough bounties before you can unlock Guild Rush. Then you have to do enough Guild Rush to unlock the next thing. What do you think about that?
So, yeah, I hope it's not gated like that, because some people may not be interested in, hey, I'm not really interested in, like, a timed mission. Maybe we're more interested in, like, a puzzle, kind of, like, thinking, jumping puzzle-related mission. Or maybe we just want a really tough challenge that just requires coordination. I mean, we have a fully upgraded guild. We upgraded the Art of War line just because we had nothing else to spend our influence on. So, yeah, we just ran out of ideas.
That's what I've been reading, too, is that other guilds, as long as they've been around for 2 or 3 months, even if they're small, they have pretty much everything upgraded. The guilds that are going to be mostly affected by this are ones that have either changed servers recently or formed recently. Those are the ones that are going to have the biggest problem. But you know what? unfortunately, I don't think there's anything ArenaNet can do about guilds that don't have as much influence as other people. If they want to tie it into this guild influence system, that they're going to have to draw a line somewhere. And to be fair, if they just said, okay, all guilds can do all of these starting tomorrow, then we would literally see hundreds of copies of the same events kicking off everywhere on Tyria at the same time for different guilds. I think that's part of the way they're trying to limit that from happening, and saying, you know, you have to have some gating and say you have to beat this part of the guild missions before you go on to the next part, so that they're not just everybody doing all of them all the time. So we'll see. We'll see. Again, this is one of those things where there's been plenty of things where we've been worried about, oh no, it's going to be so terrible. And then when they actually reveal the thing, everybody's like, oh, well, that actually wasn't so bad. Who cares? So we'll see if it's another one of those. All right, next up on here, we have Colin tweeting a bit of information, and this is sort of a collection post. Now, the important things here that I saw in this post, and the interesting things is, he said Commander books are sort of taking a look. Now, there was also an update that said that they're not really doing anything. And it put some new stuff on there. But it also said in his tweet that Commander books are going to stay character-bound instead of account-bound. What do you think about that, Vihar, as a World v World player? Is that a good decision? What do you think the reason for that is?
So that you don't have 50 commanders on a map, basically. I think it's a good idea, you know. Commander tags are only useful because it gives random players, small groups, you know, from guilds and stuff, somebody to follow in some direction. They have major drawbacks, which they keep talking about, but they haven't fixed. I think everybody would like a regular raid UI, and I know they're useful in PvE also, but if you take it into PvP and you make it account bound, people are going to have 8 accounts. You're going to have 20 or 30 commanders, and then
but you can only play one character at a time on your account, so I don't think it'll actually multiply the number of commanders out there. It'll just, it's like a quality of life improvement. Right now, if you're a commander in World v World, and you also like to play other classes aside from the first one you leveled up, you're screwed, because you have to, if you want to be that commander, you have to stay as your warrior, even though you maybe would prefer to play your elementalist tonight. You don't get a chance. You have to play the warrior, because that's the one with the commander tag, unless you want to spend another 100 gold on another commander icon.
Well, I have 2 tags and 2 tunes, but
whoa!
The thing is,
well, I don't know what your guys' problem is. Why don't you just get 200 gold? Jeez.
I think most guilds would really, I think what they really should do is have something similar to Commander tag that only your guildies could see, people in your guild, so that guilds could rally around each other. The game is called Guild Wars, but this is the first patch that I've seen where guilds really are becoming relevant, and I'd like to see them more relevant. And part of our frustration is if I get 20 guildies out there, which I never do, it's usually 10 or 15, but we have to be in 3 different groups. And if somebody says I need help and they're not in my group, I don't know where they are. I can't see them. And I think guilds need something like a commander tag so that only your guild can see. So at least everybody can stick together better and that sort of thing.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
So I agree with all of that. I guess the only reason, because I know you guys, Team Legacy touched on this, like even before the game release, when you guys were talking about the whole contentious reasons around the Commander book. I think it's really probably just to give it a sense of identity, to give that character a reputation, right? So if I was following Commander so-and-so and he's switching over to like his Ranger or something and I don't know his name, that means I can't really follow his command because I don't really know the whole legacy and reputation tied in with that character.
That's true.
Right? Just giving it a sense of
do-
identity, right?
Commanders do definitely have a reputation where if you've played World v World a number of nights in a row for a couple of weeks, then you really do get to know the commanders for your server. So that's definitely got a good point to it. I kind of still think you should give the commanders that decision than just forcing it on them. But, Now the other thing that's on here that's very important for World versus World is Colin has released his information, and I think this is also somewhere else. Orange swords will now only show up for groups higher than 25. So I believe that means if one side or another involved in some kind of a combat has at least 26 people, it will show up as orange swords. If it's smaller than that for both sides, then it won't show up as orange swords. Previously, this number was 5, not 25. So if 6 people were all fighting, engaged in combat from one side, bam, it's an orange sword, which means if you're just running past a MOA and it screams at your group as you're running by because somebody accidentally tagged it, yeah, okay, now you're showing up as an orange sword on the map. So much for stealth, right? So this is, I guess, sort of a compromise between not showing orange swords and making it impossible for players to know where to go without asking in map chat or having a other communication system, and having orange swords show up every 5 players. Now, I know that Freelance is probably very excited about this because this is certainly a step in the right direction towards what he was hoping for. What are your thoughts on this, Vihar? Is this going to spice up World v. World?
It's a step in the right direction. Definitely an improvement. If I had my way, there wouldn't be any swords at all. But
you're on Freelancer's camp on that one.
Oh, yeah. Even the white swords, I don't like it. You know, anybody can get from one point of a map to another in about a minute. So, ironically, in World versus World, if you run into a camp with your group of 5 and you see 5 people in there, it could be 5, it could be 15, it could be 50. You have no idea. By the time you find out, it's too late to act on it. But on the other hand, you can just hit a button and see everything that's going on in the map. White swords, orange swords, you get about stuff that's going on like nowhere near you than you do the people like mashing your face in with an axe. You know, you don't even know who's hitting you.
All right, I'm sorry, Vihar. That was hilarious. You your voice got all distorted and it went into like auto-tune mode. You had like a tune going on as you were talking. It was like distorting your voice. I think it was just Skype screwing up, but it was hilarious. I'm sorry. We got to turn that into like a show like sounder, like be like Vihar, like dancing. So go on.
Handle his rant.
Yeah, sorry.
ArenaNet's like
I
tapping.
do rant about this stuff.
ArenaNet's tapping into the broadcast like, we've got to shut him down. Quick, enable auto-tune mode so they laugh at him. All right, we're going to have to show you what that sounded like after the cast. But yes, so I agree with you. I think it'll be definitely a step in the right direction. It'll allow smaller groups to be effective at remaining stealth to some degree, so that you can have a group of 20 that can run around trying to like ninja castles and actually be effective at it, instead of having everybody on the map massed in 50 plus groups. Because in the past, if you had a group of 20 running around trying to get something accomplished, as soon as that orange sword appeared, it's like Zerg magnet, and just right over there, and your group of 20 is going to get wiped out by the Zerg, which means if you wanted to travel in a group larger than 5, you have to travel in a Zerg, because wherever you go, that's where the Zerg will be. So, Sarat, you play some World v. World. What do you think about this?
I think it's great because it opens up a lot more tactics, people to divide and conquer, lots more strategy there, rotational strategy and all that. So you could be, oh, we're going to start hitting this keep to drag them off and kind of just split them up. And it's kind of a weird way because ANET's all about not flipping switches. They're all about adjusting dials when they're talking about this stuff. So this is just like the step in between, probably before they just flip the swords off, right? So it just opens up the idea because it's kind of like soft capping the Zerg. Like, hey, if we get a benefit for not being over 25, well, let's just keep it lower than 25.
Yeah.
And then we can have more Zergs, right?
And it's not a terribly large benefit. It's not like, if you have less than 25 people, plus 200% health. It's not like, it's not a mechanical benefit per se. It's a strategical benefit, which is exactly what they need, if you ask me. All right, so here's this new blog post, which I'm looking at here. It says, big changes to PvP. Paid tournaments replaced by free tournaments. So it looks like they're phasing out the whole paid tournaments thing. Now that we have a ratings and matchmaking system in place that matches players with similar skill levels, we decided that the ticket cost barrier to paid tournaments is no longer necessary. So that seems to be it. They've got the matchmaking system sort of working in better, so they don't have to have the high skill players pay to get into a tournament, which means that they're really willing for competition. They use that to separate the good players, or the really dedicated PvP players, from the not dedicated PvP players. Yezdik, what do you think about this change? Is this beneficial to the PvP scene?
Say it again. Let me see that blog post if you can.
All right, so it says one of the reasons we initially introduced paid tournaments was to create a place for hyper-competitive, highly skilled players to find matches with other players of comparable skill, leaving the free tournament system available to more casual play. However, now that we have a ratings and matchmaking system in place that matches players of similar skill levels, we've decided the ticket cost barrier to paid tournament is no longer necessary. Instead, we'll have 1-round free tournaments and 3-round free tournaments. Both of these tournament types will use separate rating for the purposes of matchmaking.
Right. We heard of that. That's actually exactly what we needed, that MMR system to introduce more people to the paid tournament, to have more people actually do the tournament, you know? Because right now, it was impossible to get a group before. You could only get a paid tournament going if it was like prime time, let's say 6 p.m. EST.
Oh, yeah.
Or, you know what I mean? You can only do it then. And even then, it took a while to get that full 8 groups of 5 people in order to do one tournament. Now, with one tournament, 1-round tournaments, they pop all the time. You can do it 12 p.m., in the morning, late at night, anytime, evening. And it's a lot more fast-paced. It's a lot more rewarding. And you feel that you actually do get matched with people your level.
Excellent. So that's good to hear. I mean, they're finally working on it. It's been a while, but they got it working now. So next up on the list here before we jump to Guardian is there was an interview with Colin Johansson at MMORPG.com. Now, a couple of things jumped out at me while reading this. Guild missions, some more info about guild missions. They're kicked off by a specific guild, but anyone in the area can participate. However, only the guild who started it gets actual guild rewards, including these things called guild merits, which I think are personal player rewards, but I think it might also be like a guild currency. It's hard to tell exactly by what they're saying, but it sounds like they're going to kicks it off get if it's successful. Then everyone who participates also gets some small personal rewards like karma or gold or loot, and guild members get another guild related personal reward. So there's like a guild reward, the guild as a group gets it, like an accomplishment maybe for beating the mission, maybe some kind of special guild currency. Everybody who participates gets a small personal reward, and guild members who are part of the guild that started it get another guild related reward. Now later in this, Colin talks about things that you can get from the guild mission system, and one of them is like a tonic that can turn you into a guild banner so that you can like taunt your enemies from the battlements. So that sounds kind of interesting. But that I guess is one of the things you can probably buy with the small personal rewards, like the guild personal rewards they're talking about. That sounds interesting. And they also hinted that these guild missions are going to be expanded in the future. Right now it's only PvE, but in the future there might be some maybe world versus world guild missions. That would be interesting. What do you think that would look like, Vihar? A world versus world guild mission?
Oh, I could only hope. I don't know. I think probably you would have kill X number of players, capture a certain number of points, and that sort of thing. I'd like to see something more creative, but please, not jumping puzzles. That's all I have to say.
I'd love to see something like, you know, a guild mission that requires a minimum number of enemies on a map, and when you click and when you choose to activate it, it will like trigger a dynamic event, like a meta event, so everybody on the map can see it. And it's like the guild master from the garrison is going to Dreaming Bay, and you have to escort him, and the enemy team has been alerted that he's on the move. They won't point out where he is, but like everybody in the enemy team will get a message saying, you know, Guildmaster is trying to make his escape. Find him and kill him. And like now it's a mission to like escort this guy, so your guild is responsible for his protection. So that would be kind of a cool idea to throw into World v World. There's tons of things wrong with that, but that's okay because it sounds like it would be awesome anyway.
Anything that would take place in World versus World is okay with me.
There you go. You heard it here, folks.
So.
No, that nobody in chat like, no, not escort missions, no. Nobody likes that. All right, the last thing we've got here is a very interesting post by somebody on the Guild Wars 2 subreddit last week or the week before that talks about deleting the local.dat file, local.dat, and you can find that in my documents / Guild Wars 2. You can back it up in case you're worried about it actually causing some major issues, but what happens is you delete that file, the game recreates it. However, for some people, deleting this file and the game remaking it remakes the file significantly smaller, and it cuts loading times as much as in half. For some people. Not all people experience this. Some people experience nothing. Other people experience a dramatic change from like 47 seconds to like 23 seconds. So if you're experiencing long load times, this might help you. I don't know. Did you guys happen to try this?
I haven't tried it personally. I haven't had a problem with load times. I know a lot of people on the Mac client do have a lot of problem with load times, just because of the Mac architecture and all that. So it might be a good idea to pitch to them. I don't know if that's going to be really, really significant because it's a sort of sum of like if you look at the comments below that Reddit post too, the people are like, "Oh, it didn't work for me. Didn't work for me."
Yep. So, again, if you're going to try this, definitely back up the file, like make a copy of it, put it on your desktop before you try it, just in case it does cause some issues for you. They do say that it definitely removes your login credentials. So you have to sort of re-log in. If you have the client set to save your login information, deleting this file will get rid of that for you. All right, so that's about it for that. I think it's time. V here, sorry, do you have something to add to that?
Yeah, I was just wondering because I read that thread, and it seems to me, I wonder if some of the discrepancies in the results they're getting isn't based on the population of the Lion's Arch they're going to. For example, when World versus World shuts down and we all get kicked to Lion's Arch, it takes like 5 minutes to load, but other times I can go to Lion's Arch and it doesn't take any time at all. So I wonder if the discrepancies don't have more to do with how many people are loading rather than that individual file for them. Just a thought.
Interesting. That might be. It might just be a placebo effect on a lot of these people because it's in a confirmation bias. Like, oh, it worked. And other people are like, oh, it didn't. So I guess it doesn't work.
If you're on HOD, you might have a different loading time than if you're on Corey.
True. Shadow FM in the chat has another alternate solution for you guys. If this one doesn't work for you, he says just buy a solid state drive. Just go ahead and do that.
If you got a problem, just throw Bunny at it. Works every time.
Of course. It's never resulted in anything wrong ever. Okay, we're going to jump right into Guardian time, ladies and gentlemen. This is what we've been waiting for. So I'd like to first start by going through the group here and asking you guys, Sarat, why the Guardian? What makes him fun? What makes him special? What drew him to you originally?
So, like, in Guild Wars, we only have really two heavy classes, two really, like, melee-oriented classes in that sense, and I am much more of a proponent and advocate of playing support. Like, I want to buff my allies, I want to make sure that they stay on top of their game, and I want to make sure I just enhance their gameplay, more so than just doing personal damage. And that's really the deciding factor between, like, a warrior and a guardian if you like that type of gameplay. So that's what I like to do. And I've always played support classes in all the MMOs I've played, like in WoW I played a paladin, and stuff like that. So that's what attracted me.
All right, Vihar, same question. Is that similar to why you wanted to play Guardian?
The Guardian's my third tune, but what drove me to it was basically in combat, I like to have my friends behind me and my enemies in front, so I like to be on the front line. My other tunes didn't measure up, so Guardian it is.
There you go. There you go. What about you, Yezik? Yezik? Sorry. What makes Guardian fun in SPVP?
For me, it's the frustration of other people. I just love being on point.
Spoken like a true competitive player. If I can drive my enemies to punch their monitor because they hate me so much, then I have won.
That's it. I live my life to the fullest. But yeah, I completely enjoy being on point, 2 versus 1, 3 versus 1, living for 30, 40 seconds, keeping the point. My team comes in, cleans up, and they're just mad with rage because they can't get me off point, can't capture it, can't kill me.
I have sympathetic rage for them already.
Yeah, Guardian is the only one that can achieve that, in my opinion.
All right, Sarat, are you satisfied with everything about the Guardian, or is there something you're like, well, I wish they just did this a little differently?
Well, like it's pretty much, if there was a one-word definition for Guardian, it's survive, right? I mean, I don't think anybody's going to contest that. That's what they do. But yeah, no. Other than bugs, and sometimes like it feels like some of those trait lines aren't optimized. Like, how about those zeal traits, guys?
Oh, don't even mention.
I knew I was in the right place. I knew I was in the right place. Yeah, so it's just there's things that can be tweaked, there's things that can be enhanced. It's not necessarily to the point of like being overpowered or just making the class better, but just things to clean up and streamline, just make it more efficient, and things to make more sense in there. Because there's a lot of traits I know that when we go through, all of us, I'm just speaking for everyone, when we're looking through those different trait trees and we look at this, major trait that we could select, no, skip every time, right?
The Elementalist certainly has those trait lines too.
Oh yeah, that's a nightmare too. That's a whole different problem.
It's like, oh, you mean the air tree? You mean the one you only go in if you really need that precision and pretty much no other reason? So Yezhik, let me ask you. The virtue mechanic is the sort of thing that's unique to the Guardian. They have the 3 virtues: justice, courage, and resolve. Other people may know it as that thing that sometimes gives you a shield on your arm even when you don't have a shield. And so, what do you think about this virtue mechanic? Is this thing just like, do you feel like it's an interesting decision as to when and whether you should push these buttons, or you just leave it on as passive buffs that are awesome?
It all depends on your build, but even then, even if it doesn't depend on your build, like let's say you completely don't invest into the virtue tree, those 3 buttons can save your life. That Aegis at the right time or that heal at the right time. But if you do invest it, I think it's fantastic. It's what makes the Guardian truly unique. That like you can make a completely, tank warrior, and then you can make a tank Guardian, and the Guardian will always outlive because that F2 passive, that utility that you get with it, I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, the cool thing about those virtues too, very low into the trait lines. It's very early that you can change how they function, right? So you're talking about when you're going into your precision tree. I forget what it's called exactly right now, but it changes how virtue of courage. I mean, not virtue of courage. Virtue of justice works. So that it just does an AOE blind to everybody. So that's already changed the functionality with only investing 5 points, right? And then you go down to 5 points into virtues, right? Now you're giving buffs to everyone in the party.
Yep.
So it's just, you can adapt the profession-specific skills, adapt so early on that you can redefine how you're going to play already.
Excellent. Okay, so before we jump into the weapon sets and the traits and utilities and stuff, is there any sort of rule of thumb for anybody that's sort of starting their Guardian on that you guys would give them, when to use these skills to their full effect? Do you use like the justice, the burning damage, when the enemy is close to death but not quite there, so you can take advantage of the big sort of dot suddenly hitting them all at once? Is there anything in particular, any kind of general rule of thumb? Having played the Guardian for 80 levels, can you pass on the wisdom to your new generation of Guardians?
All right. Well, it just like we do a lot of dungeons, we do a lot of PvE, we do a lot of things where you're just having to adapt to the mechanics that they have designed in the PvE sense. So like you just gotta be really, really on top of what your skills do and be really knowledgeable about all the virtues, abilities, and stuff like that. So like when we're talking about the blinding effect, some of those bosses have really slow melee attacks, and in a way to conserve your party's like endurance meter, to conserve those dodges, you could just throw up a blind. Doesn't hurt anybody. We're all good. And also, like if your party's low, there's a trait in there called Altruistic healing, which benefits the Guardian a lot. But like using just your 5-point virtue upgrade to where you're starting to put protection on the party and you're starting to put regeneration on the party, it just enhances that to where, hey, you've got a window where people are taking 33% less damage and they're regenerating health in the middle of it. So it's just, you have innate ways of activating survivability, and it also can benefit you in ways of replenishing your own health. So it's just getting used and getting familiar with it and knowing those things are at the right time to pop, because they do have long cooldowns, so that's quite a long like learning curve to get used to not popping those at the wrong time.
Yeah, the fire one, the burning one, has a 30-second cooldown. The courage, the Aegis, has a 40-second cooldown on yourself, the passive, and then it has a 90-second cooldown on the active, which means during that entire 90 seconds, you're missing out on 2 Aegis on yourself. And then the regen and heal is 60 seconds without any regen if you want to pop that heal. So that is certainly a tough decision. You have to try and decide when you want to make those. The other thing that I thought of as a really nice rule of thumb is if you're ever going up against like a dungeon boss or something that like hits the entire party simultaneously, the one that pops to mind is that jerk in the Ascalonian catacombs that does the spinny thing where he reaches out and pulls everybody in and damages them all really quickly. If you see that animation coming and your team is kind of crappy, you can be like, it's okay, I got this. Block everybody. That sounds like you could be the hero to like noobs that are like, I've never been in this dungeon before, what happens? It's like, you saved us. They'll never know. Let's face it. Nobody will notice that you saved their ass as a Guardian.
Oh, I do that to teammates when we're in Mumble and all that stuff. It's like, hey, why didn't I get knocked down? Oh, I threw up a block. Oh, hey, why didn't I just get instantly killed here? Oh, I threw up a block. It's cool. Keep going.
Don't worry. Thankless. All right, so let's jump to the weapon sets because there are a lot of interesting weapons and sort of combinations here. So let's talk about those right now, and I'll throw that up on the screen for the people that are interested in following it on the screen here. This is on the Guild Wars 2 wiki.guildwars2.com, and let's talk about the weapon sets. So the first thing I want to ask you guys is what is the most fun or the coolest weapon set visually and mechanically? Like, what is the most fun one?
Great sword.
Great sword. What makes it awesome?
The mobility. If you turn off auto targeting options, you can just jump all over the place, all over the map. You have that utility of pulling people in with the 5, the mobility with the number 3. You have a sigil. You have this Garen from League of Legends spin to win number 2.
Yes.
I don't know. It's just such a good weapon, and it always looks good. It's fantastic.
Definitely. I was playing around with my Guardian. I have to say, it's always hammer. It's always lightning hammer, and it's always hammer because you've got that 4 skill that launches the opponent away, which is one of the most satisfying animations in any game I've ever played because it connects so well. When your hammer hits them, it's got such a solid feel as they fly through the air and then roll on the ground. Can't get enough of that hammer. What about you, Sarat?
See, that's the hammer is like my number 1 weapon if there was a vote for dropping one-liners while you're using it at the same time. Especially like if you play like NBA Jam. Oh, he's heating up from downtown. You totally got to do that. And if you use that 4-skill banish, boom, shakalaka.
And when you get the final symbol of protection in the ground on the last one in the hammer, or mighty blow should be the nail in the coffin. Wham!
Oh yeah. See, the hammer. The greatsword is a big PvE favorite. You'll see a lot of them running around. I mean, I've got a sunrise on my Guardian. Don't hate. But it's one of the most popular weapons to use. Like, I think Binding Blade is one of the biggest sellers, especially in a PvE sense, because you can just group up mobs like nothing and just AoE it for the entire party. Just cleans through some content.
All right, so let's see what the next question is here. What about the best weapon set for World v World VR? What 2 weapons do you find yourself usually going into World v World with?
Well, first I want to say that the Hammer 4 skill is what inspired me to do the Guardian in the first place. Before I knew anything.
By the way, the Guardian works really well on the Asura. They have some of the coolest animations as a race, and the Guardian has some of the coolest animations as a class. To see the Asura, this tiny little thing, jump up in the air and do like the sword 3 skill, that protector strike, where he just kind of sits there hovering in air, swinging the sword so fast that it blocks all incoming damage, and then after he's done, he just whoop, drops back to the ground. Just like he's like the Wile E. Coyote. He forgets there's gravity as long as he's in the middle of something, and then he looks down and he falls. It's the best thing ever. I'm sorry, Mihar. World v World.
As a world versus worlder, I'll say that in big fights, Zerg fights, like in castles and stuff, there's always that one guy up on the wall who's just like AoEing down into the fight, and he thinks he's like safe, and that's the guy I've literally like almost died or killed myself trying to get to that guy just so I could use Hammer 4 on him, knock him right down into the middle of the fight, you know. But
yes.
So world versus world weapons. First of all, Scepter sucks. Stay away from the Scepter.
Let's get that out of the way right away.
Oh, no.
Anybody can outrun a Scepter, okay? They have to be, you
Can I
know.
comment on that real quick?
All right, Yezzik, jump in, defend the Scepter's honor.
I completely disagree. Scepter is amazing.
Let's for the record, let me just quickly jump in. The Scepter has 3 skills. It fires a slow-moving orb at your foe. The second skill strikes foes in the target area repeatedly with Smite, and then the third one immobilizes your foe and makes them vulnerable. So, Yezzik, why is the Scepter not as crappy as VR says?
Yeah, I will. When we get to the SPP section, I'll say my weapon sets. But especially for What Was This World, you need that range. When you're doing jumping puzzles, when you're doing anything, when you're assaulting your keep or shooting off the keep, you need that range. And Scepter, I think, is the only weapon that can provide you with that. Especially that one. I know it's a slow-moving orb, but they increased it since beta by a lot. It's 1200 range. And the number 3 skill, the Immobilize, oh my god, Immobilize is so king. You cannot give that up for anything. Immobilize, your people just move in on him, shut that guy down real quick, next guy. You know what I mean? And that Smite on the 5-second cooldown is a good 2000 damage, no matter how you build.
I don't know. I
think
see
it's
people
fantastic.
outrun those orbs in World vs. World all the time. I
Well,
tried it out.
that's what
I didn't
Chains
like
of
it.
Light is for, right? You have to hold them in place so your slow-ass orb can catch up to
Yeah,
them.
okay. So you got the 1 skill with a slow orb that people outrun. You got the 2 skill, which is, you know, if they don't move, you can hit them. And you got the 3 skill, which you can make them not move, but you don't do any damage. It's not my weapon. I would say for World versus World, the one must-have, I think, is Staff, and mainly because of its utility. The Staff 3 skill, it gives everybody speed. The 4 skill gives your group might, which with altruistic healing makes you almost invulnerable. You can cast it in the middle of combat. If the Staff 5 skill is great for a number of things, blocking entrances, or if people portal bomb you, it's fun to drop it in the middle of the Zerg, and they stumble over it, basically. I find it indispensable. So the Staff is the must-have. Not the most fun, but it's a must-have.
And the 1 skill on that, being an AoE sort of wave attack, has got to be pretty useful if you ever get in the middle of combat there, too. All right, so SPVP then. Yezhik, what kind of weapon sets do you usually bring to SPVP?
Just not to go back, but just to touch on the Staff. I mean, I completely agree with you. It has great utility, but that 1 skill, come on, be honest. It's like a little poke. Not even a poke. It's like 200 damage.
It doesn't do
each
much
person.
damage, it's true.
Yeah, come on.
Well, right, but if you get a crit and you have the trait that gives your party mates might, and you get a self-heal out of it for each crit, you're good to go.
I heard a lot of conditional statements in that sentence. If you get a crit, and
Yeah,
you
yeah,
have this, and
Well,
then
if
it
you're hitting
triggers
6
this.
people, you're going to get a couple of crits out of it.
Fair enough. All right, so what weapon sets do you run in SPVP, Yezhik?
Hammer and the Scepter. Well, it depends on the map. Let's say we're not doing Kylo for now. We're not doing the Battle of Kylo. I would use a hammer and a Scepter shield. That hammer blowback and the Ring of Warding, like you guys were saying before, fantastic. You can get some sweet combos out of that. Keep your point, neutral people. Plus the Immobilize and the hammer. Like, I think Immobilize is amazing. Way too good to give up. And again, with the Scepter, you have Immobilize on the hammer and on the Scepter. And then you have a shield, which is a protection for your allies, and the blowback. So you can, CC someone, then focus them real hard. Or CC them off someone who's resin them or stomping. You know what I mean? So that combination, hammer, scepter, shield, I think is an amazing
All right,
thing.
Sarat, what's your favorite weapons for PvE type engagement?
Well, I'll add some caveats to that whole scepter and staff.
Look at an asterisk going on here.
In Bihar's defense, the Immobilize is really, really good, but the range on it is lower than the actual scepter itself when
True.
you're doing the regular auto attack. So if he's already outranged you, you've got to use some other kind of closing the gap skill, be it Judge's Intervention or something like that, to really take advantage of it. But Immobilize, I don't think anybody will really contest me here. It's like the most powerful condition you can have in a PvP setting.
Yep.
All right. And the staff has some utility in a PvP setting. The 5 skill is really good just for blocking access to really interrupt somebody else when they're trying to do something on the move. Just because they usually just run right into it and you just kind of laugh at them while they fall on their butt. The symbol that you throw down on the ground, the swiftness symbol, is really, really solid, especially when you get groups running through it. It just speeds up the entire group, and you don't have to sacrifice utility slots for doing that. It's just a weapon on the fly. The Orbalite, that's the number 2 skill on it, hits for a ton of damage. And if you're spec down the honor line, where you have that 20% two-handed weapon cooldown reduction, that thing is almost instantaneously recharged. So you can practically spam it on a lot of mobs and
Oh,
a
yeah,
lot
it's got
of
a
people.
3-second cooldown, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, it's just so fast. You'll just boom. Don't even do the double tap on it. Don't use the secondary skill. Just boom, hit it, and it'll just pretty much replace your auto attack. So you don't have to worry about that.
There you go. That's the solution for the shitty auto attack. Is that you get some cooldown reduction on there, and you don't need an auto attack.
Yeah, and the staff was like really broken to beta because it used to be a blast finisher. But yeah, we'll miss that. Rest in peace. But like for PvE, just because of the whole variety in dungeons, I always say bring everything. I'm pretty sure all you guys bring all your weapons for all the different situations you're going to be in, right?
Right.
Yeah, yeah. So you just stay versatile. So I mean, there's some weapons that are really good for certain situations, but they're not going to be good for all. So just make sure you stay on your guard and do all that. There's going to be weapons that you're going to lean to. Like a lot of people just love the greatsword. A lot of people just love the hammer, and those will be your go-tos. But you want to be able to have a secondary set because it's only a 10-second cooldown for weapon switching. So you might want to be able to change it up or be versatile. Like I need a more focused range thing here, or I need to be able to buff people here, prevent this here. So yeah, that's what I would always say. Like in PvE, just bring all your weapons. Don't really constrict yourself to one to make sure you're versatile.
All right, so I know that nobody wants to hear about this, but what about the water weapons? I mean, you get to carry both of them, right? You get to carry the spear and the trident because you're not an elementalist, so you get to actually fucking choose. But to carry multiple things, I mean, I do get 20 skills, and you get 10. But anyways, so you got the spear and the trident. Do you find yourself using one over the other consistently? Anybody?
Trident.
Trident always over the spear as a general rule?
Just for the range.
The spear is basically melee underwater.
Yes. And we all know how well that works in a 3D environment where people can move in all axes. I certainly didn't have an easy time.
Like the underwater scepter.
Come on,
man.
I'll advocate for the spear. One of the biggest things they did for the spear, the number 2 skill, that big flurry that you dish out, they used to be rooted when you used to attack with it, remember? And now you can actually move with it. So that was a huge change. So you can really adjust where that flurry is hitting. And that thing hits for a lot, depending on your spec. The Trident's really cool, especially in PvE. The whole sinking skills, like, you know how most of those bosses always have defiant stacks. Like, oh, they're going to be immune to being these CC effects until you get these stacks down. Sinking effects work on those without even having to affect those stacks.
Sinking is not a condition. Interesting.
Yeah, it's true. So like say the jellyfish boss in Fractals. I'm sorry if you guys haven't done that. Spoilers.
There's a jellyfish in Fractals. Spoilers.
Yeah. So a way that we do it, because the faster way lightning cages when they go off. So when the cages are rotating around and they're in different areas, we usually sink that guy repeatedly just to make sure he doesn't consume anybody, make sure he's not putting agony to anybody when they're consumed, and we'll sink him down into the cages so we can basically adjust on the fly how quickly we can deal damage to that guy. So we'll just try to burn through him as much as we can. So sinking effects on the underwater bosses, especially when you start going to honor the waves, those guys do some really douchey stuff. So sinking effects really just to control them, especially when we got 5 people knowing how to rotate that in an organized setting. It's pretty powerful.
All right, so let's talk about the trait lines here. And we'll talk about sort of the utilities as we go in, because a lot of trait lines in all of these different character, all the Guild Wars 2, traits are very heavily dependent on utilities. They'll say, oh, it buffs all of these things, which are all utilities, etc., etc. So let's talk about that right now. What do you think for World v World VR, what trait lines do you usually spec into, and which of them are the weakest, do you think?
Well, altruistic healing is like crack for Guardians. Once you have it, you just can't make a build
That's at the
without
bottom
it.
of the Valor tier, which is the toughness tier for those of you following along at home.
Right. And the problem is that puts you 30 points into that trait line. Now, if you can make a build without it, great. But if you, I can't live without it, and that sucks up 30 points. It limits the other builds I can do, and I've done a couple of things. But the survivability of altruistic healing, without that, you're not the best Guardian, honestly. So,
Sarat?
Oh, yeah, I agree. Altruistic healing is like one of the most powerful abilities you can get as a Guardian. So, in just a general, like, Guardians aren't meant for straight healing. They're really meant about boon support. You know, so boon duration and all those really help out, and also spreading those boons to allies. And altruistic healing just fits in with that, especially when you're fulfilling a tanking role. You're fulfilling that role. Hey, I'm going to be on the front lines. I'm going to get in the mix and be soaking up as much damage for my team as I can. and controlling that boss by doing so. Hey, I'm a melee target. I'm going to be in your face, and you're going to be attacking me. Or in World v. World, what's the first thing they attack when they see anybody run towards them? They just go after that guy, especially when you're just balling through there. So giving that is just key to survivability, and there's so many skills that you get in weapon, like just different weapons. Like you got your 4 skill in the shield that gives protection to everybody that's in range, and it also damages foes in there. So you got 10 targets right there. You're getting 5 targets with damage, and you're hitting 5 allies with protection, and you're getting heals from that. With empowering might on the 4 skill on the staff, when that's channeling, it's applying stacks of might. For each time those might stacks accrue through those channels, you're getting healed for that. That's almost another heal on your bar to basically supplement your actual number 6 heal skill. So that's why it just gives you a ton of survivability by doing so. And the problem is, like, you're not going to be scaling with healing power so much, but you're going to scale just because you're having so many boons you can apply it so many times.
Yeah, I'm looking at this right now, actually. There's a really nice entry on Altruistic Healing in here, and it shows each of the different weapon skills, the boon that they give, and the number of triggers that they have, as well as the max HP gain. And Empower can give you 4,200 HP back. That's significant. That's like another heal. Exactly right. As long as you don't really get interrupted. That's like, okay, I'm going to give might, 12 stacks of might to everybody around me, and I'm going to heal again. And by the way, I got another heal on top of that, and any of these other skills that I use could also heal me. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, and one of the things I love, especially when you're in the mix, when you got the hammer or you got your greatsword going, you just toss a symbol down right there, and those symbols tick every second while people are in there. So if you have a Mesmer in your group, they're sending in clones to get shattered. When they go into that area, they get those buffs. You get healed. If you have a minion master, God bless those guys that are still sticking with it. But if you have a minion master, you can buff them up too. And for each tick that they're in that symbol area, you're going to get healed for it. So it's a great way to keep replenishing your health and keep that cycle going.
Yeah, so Yezhik, this all sounds a little bit overpowered. And we just heard Vihar say that, this is the thing that you take. It's like, if you can make a Guardian build without it, I guess, but really, why would you? Is this a situation where the other types of, 30-point things are just not quite as appealing, or this is just too good?
I think you guys are giving ideal situations in which they never work.
Oh,
there are a lot of Guardian builds.
Mass group situations. It's different for you.
Yeah,
it's different
that's
for
what I'm
you.
saying. Maybe in PvE versus role with a lot of people, it might get pulled off. But in SPP, when there's 5 people and everyone is coordinated,
they're so coordinated. They're cutting him off.
Oh.
What happened?
No.
Oh no.
all those ideal situations not gonna happen. Not overpowered at all.
All right, there we go. We got him back. It looks like we had a little lag there. Thank you, Skype.
Do we have a rant sensor going on here?
That's really true. I think we do. ArenaNet's working with Microsoft, clearly.
Yeah, you just gotta cut out in the heat of the moment there.
I was getting all frustrated and everything.
I was getting ready to play music for you. Okay, so we can agree that the Valor trait line here is really good, specifically for that altruistic healing. But it also looks like it has a lot of other good options. What's the worst trait line out there? Like the one that's you're like, I don't even want to put 10 points into that.
Guys, on 3, you ready? Zeal.
Zeal. That's the one. That's the.
Zeal would
you
be
pretty
the
much
first
just erase
one, right?
that. You're like, oh no.
Zeal
if
is
I
the
clicked
first
on it,
one.
it was an accident.
So let me see. Look, I haven't really looked too deeply into this, but let me see if I can see why this is okay. So the Grandmaster traits here increase spirit weapon damage by 10%. Well, those only last for what, 20 seconds? I can't imagine that's going to be super useful. And that one really depends on forcing your 3 utility skills to be a very specific set in order to get the most out of that one. So let's say no. Grandmaster greatsword attacks heal you. It depends on how much healing you get when you use that, and if you're planning to use the greatsword. It sounded like it could. It heals 25 per hit, and does not scale with healing power. That seems like a problem. Okay, I can see why those two are not things you're going to want to pick. And let's see, the bottom tier here, immobilizing a foe applies vulnerability, damage by 10% against burning foes. You're not going to be burning that many foes. You're not an elementalist. Get out of here, Fiery Wrath. Get out of here. creates a symbol of protection when you take falling damage. Guys, come on, 50% less falling damage. Great for jumping puzzles. Great for jumping puzzles.
It's great if you have no depth perception, I guess.
Yeah.
Or if you're in World v. World and you got to beat a cliff boss.
This is my cliff boss defense.
All right. So, okay, so Zeal clearly not so good. Radiance is the precision tree here. What do we got? Anything really good in Radiance?
One of my favorite things, and especially for like a PvE set, is going 15 points in there, especially if you're a farmer. Because if you get that to where your virtue or courage, or your virtue of justice, sorry, your virtue of justice, every time you kill a mob, it renews it. And if you also pick that up, you can pick up the trait that minor trait that gives it a blind to every time you do it, and it's an AOE blind. And you also get the trait that every time you apply blind to something, you apply 3 stacks of vulnerability. So, at those large AoE pools, right, you can practically spam that skill. So, because everything's going to die, and you're just going to ramp up blind, so they're not going to hit you, and you're just going to take them out with, like, Whirling Wrath or whatever AoE skills or whatever your party's doing. So you're spamming blind. They're not hitting you at all. And you're also putting vulnerability stacks up there. So you'll get to, like, 18 stacks by the time big pulls are done.
Any other comments from the other Guardians here? Radiance, any other reason to go in here?
If you do a condition build, I suppose. I've never gone that way. I always went support. But maybe if you're more of a solo guardian or something, I could see where it'd be useful, but I don't use it.
Yezhik, come on. This one has torch skills recharge 15% faster. You can't give that up. That's 2 whole skills recharging faster, my friend.
I think it's mostly good to go into it if you're going as a DPS guard at the Grandmaster trait. That gives you 15% increase to critical
hits,
strike.
yeah.
For one hand.
Yeah.
For one
So
hand.
if you go as a scepter torch, what you call it? Scepter focus or sword torch, like that's a good
sword
combo.
torch.
That would be a good DPS combo. But other than that, maybe the 10% reduction on your signet, because that signet heal is pretty powerful. But other than that, I don't think it's such a good trait line.
Okay, fair enough.
The other thing I'll pitch for, like when you're going up to 30, that signet passive effects are improved is really, really solid. Because a lot of the signet passives, like I believe it is, we gotta pull this up here.
Increases by 20% the passive attribute bonuses of other signets, and Signet of Resolve removes 2 conditions every 10 seconds instead of 1. Yes, Yesik is typing no in the Skype chat.
Oh. These Guardians don't ever take any other signet besides Signet of Resolve, the healing one. You have to have stability, you have to have shouts, you have to have buffs. Going like 3 signets is terrible. Please, no one ever do
Oh,
it.
no, not 3 signets, but the one signet that gives you the 20%, like it has the 10% damage reduction, it actually goes up to 20. So there is some utility in it. I wouldn't suggest it to anybody, but there is an option there. So it does improve that by like 50% compared to what it actually says in the wiki note.
Oh, interesting. So reduces incoming damage by 10%, and increases that to 20% when you've got the other one. So yeah, if you have to really tank a hard boss in a PvE environment, I can see where that might be useful. But that's kind of where the whole utility skill system is really nice, because you can swap things on the fly. When you're getting ready to do something else, you can put and slot in, a new strategy that'll be useful for this event. I love figuring out the sort of puzzles that have to do with that thing. What do you think, Vihar? We're sort of on the subject of signets here. What do you think for World v. World? Any signets useful?
I don't currently use any except for the healing one, but I have used Signet of Judgment for my retaliation build, which had I could keep retaliation up 75 to 80% of the time, so that was pretty useful. So I have used it for that. I would say for specific builds, currently I use all shouts, basically.
Yes, that's how it should be done.
We're going to get to shouts in a second. I forgot to cover the healing before. Let's talk about healing very quick here. So you've got Healing Breeze, when healing is like, I don't know what that is. That's you going like Superman, like, in front of you and like freezing people to health. I don't understand how that works.
I call it friendly fire halitosis.
Apparently, you've got, and that one can't be used underwater. Clearly, you can't use Healing Breeze underwater. Duh. So then you've got Shelter, which blocks attacks while healing, and Signet of Resolve, which cures a condition every 10 seconds or heals yourself. So of these, I'm guessing, like most other classes, there's like one that everybody uses. What is it?
Is that another one we need to all shout out unanimously?
Let's do it. All right.
It's a Signet.
All right.
Signet. Of
Signet.
course.
I don't know anybody who doesn't.
Wow.
In PvP, it's a bit different, but definitely Signet.
I will say I have used Shelter once, and that's only for COF. So Citadel Flames. And
Yeah.
just because I innately pick up, just because I have to, the game might when you block attacks, so those guys tick like a flamethrower breath on you, like 15 hits in a second. So you just get up to 25 stacks of might and you blow them away.
Okay, there you go. All right, so let me see. Is there any? Oops, I skipped the trait lines. There's a couple other traits in here that we didn't quite cover. The honor tree is the vitality tree. Is there anything really useful in here, Yesik?
I just wanted to cover the healing spells while we were.
Okay, sorry. Go back to the healing
talking about-
spells.
In PvP, you guys, I just really suggest taking Shelter. It saves your life so much when you're getting focused. Just pop that on. You know, you block all attacks, you get healed up, then you can dodge out the way. Plus, the way certain Guardian builds are set up, taking the Signet is like an 8,000 heal. You only have effectively like 15,000, 16,000 health in PvP. So you having an 8,000 heal for only 16,000 health, you know, effectively you have to wait till you have health in order to heal up, and that's no good.
You don't want to
'Cause you
be
can
that
get first down real quick like that.
Yeah, I can see where that would be a good point, because the cooldown on that Signet of Resolve is pretty high. I think
Yeah.
it's 40 seconds, it looks like. So that is going to mean that you're in PvP, you're going to be able to use that much less often, and as you said, you have to wait a little longer. So, okay, so what about the last couple trait lines here? We've got the honor trait line, which improves dodging, symbols, and shouts, which apparently is the build that people should be using. So outside of the valor line, it sounds like the honor line is a very popular one. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
It's pretty much a mainstay. Go 30 points in here because you can't go wrong, really.
Allies affected by
Yeah,
shouts convert one condition to a boon, or allies
With altruistic healing.
because you're giving boons. I see how that.
Well,
that
Pure
could,
Voice would be great if it worked.
Which one?
Whoa. No, it works. It works.
Go ahead and click on the entry, Bridger, and you'll see that sometimes it doesn't.
So bleeding is converted to vigor, blind is converted to fury, burning to aegis. Okay, so this trait has no effect with save yourselves because that shout already removes all conditions from affected allies, and the main effect of the shout doesn't touch it. Does not reliably work with hold the line. Sometimes it will remove a condition, but it never converts it to a boon. Okay, so I guess those shouts seem to be like important ones that don't seem to work.
If it worked consistently, I'd play it, but just because I can't depend on it for condition removal, I'm just like, no. The only shout I usually use is the stability shout that I know will trigger with it, but you're going to put that on your bar in PvE and PvP situations like 90% of the time. So.
Gotcha. So what's this other one? Battle presence. Nearby allies gave Virtue of Resolve's passive effect. That's the healing? Is that what that one is? Virtue of Resolve? Yeah. They get the passive regeneration. Interesting. That's not really worthy of a Grandmaster trait, I don't think.
No. It's cool if you're like playing out and you're leveling up and you've got a necromancer friend that's got tons of minions, because it is cool to see all of them get healed while you're playing around.
All right, so then the last one on this tree is the Virtues trait line, which increases boon duration and your virtue recharge rate by 1%. So presumably that means that your virtue gets a cooldown reduction up to like 30%. Is that what that means exactly?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so how useful is this trait then? Is this line?
Well, I actually want to go back and touch on honor a little bit.
Okay, sorry. I'm
Okay,
jumping ahead. I'm jumping ahead. Go ahead.
So the Grandmaster traits are Pure Voice is on and off good. I mean, if you can get it reliably working, if it would actually, function as whenever they do update that, I will be switching over to that and using it more often. The ones I love is the Two-Handed Mastery. That's really great with your great swords. It really helps upgrade that damage. You get binding blades off them sooner and all that. Your staff gets a lot more powerful too, and that's a big popular thing for mobility is having great sword and staff, right? The other one, Empowering Might. This is a huge one I love with Altruistic Healing. So whenever you land a crit, nearby allies gain Might for 5 seconds. So most Guardians, there's like a sweet spot for crit in a PvE sense or a World v World sense. Like you want about like 40 to 50% crit. And when you put that up there, you're buffing everybody. So they're all getting more damage. And you're also healing yourself passively by just putting in auto attacks.
And I can see the shouts recharge 20% faster, since shouts seem to be like the bee's knees. Superior aria looks like a really good one to take for your tier 1 major trait.
Yeah, practically a staple. So.
All right. So, yeah, there's some good stuff in there. At the end of your dodge roll, heals nearby allies. That's kind of nice, too. Selfless daring. That's a good name. All right, so the virtues trait line. Does anybody go deeply into the virtues trait line? Does anybody have a build that sort of relies on this trait line at all?
In PvP, yeah.
Okay, Yezik, describe it. What is this trait line really useful for?
Just again, sorry to go back, but I'm pretty sure everything that they all say about Guardian PvE and versus roll, I completely disagree in PvP because
Okay.
it just doesn't work like that. Pure Voice is amazing with Soldier Runes. That's 2 conditions removed effectively, from you, or transferred into a boon, or just completely removed. It doesn't matter. They're gone.
Totally agree. Totally.
When you're holding your point against 3 people, the only thing that can really kill a Guardian is conditions, because they whittle down that health or remove your protection, regeneration, all that.
That's
and if
the
you can remove 2
liability, right?
conditions from you, that's it. I don't know. I think Pure Voice is amazing. It should
and this isn't necessarily there's one right answer. As we've already talked about, there's situations where in SPVP you want very different things than you want in PvE,
Yep.
and you want very different things in World v World. So this isn't like Surratt's wrong. These are very different things we're talking about here. So
We're different sides of the track, man. We can get along.
Yeah, of course. I'm just saying.
I agree with you. Like, as soon as I'm in a PvP situation, Guardians all have a low health pool. What kills us? Conditions. That's the only thing that toughness does not negate, right? So yeah, in that situation, I could care less if Pure Voice works all the time. You would just need to pull those conditions off while getting a cantrip from doing it by buffing your allies in the middle of it, right? So that's why it's so good. You're like, oh, I don't need to worry about the survivability. I don't care if you put poison on me. I can remove it like by sneezing. I don't care. So it's really, really good in a PvP situation because it just lets you have to be able to pull off things that lots of builds depend on to take you out without having to hamper your build or hamper your utility selections by doing it. It's all passive. So it's really good.
Just to go over the virtues, I go 30 points into virtues in the SPP build, mostly because of if you look at trait number 9 and 10, those are fantastic.
Oh yeah,
Absolute Resolution removes 3 conditions and makes Virtue of Resolve's passive effect stronger. So that's the healing sort of gets stronger over time, and Indomitable Courage it grants 3 seconds of sleep. Very useful in PvP, allowing you to res somebody or stomp somebody. That can definitely be very important. And Virtue of Courage passive effect triggered every 30 seconds instead. So that's Aegis every 30 seconds, every 40 seconds. I can definitely see why you would take those. You would take those over the Grandmaster traits? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I'm saying, like if I was to go 30 points into virtues, I'll probably take Vengeful, which is the number 2 trait, or Consecrations decrease by 20%, the CDR on them. That depends on what I'm running. And definitely those 2, 9 and 10, because that affects your whole party. Like when you click F3, that gives Aegis and protection to your whole party pretty much, the 5 people in SPVP.
Gotcha. Okay, I can definitely see how those would be really useful. Vihar, what do you think about the honor and the virtue tree here?
Well, the virtue tree, you have to go 5. I don't see how you not put at least 5 in there. The honor tree, I basically go at least 20. I have basically my build is 30 valor, 30 honor. And just to touch on the whole thing about the shouts and the pure voice, the shouts are indispensable anyways in PvP, and they give you a self heal. So pure voice is sort of a bonus. Does it work or not? I don't know, but I know when I get in a fight in World versus World, I get lit up like a Christmas tree with the conditions. So anything that can help remove conditions is a must. So that's kind of my opinion on the shouts. I have gone into virtues, but again, I can't live without altruistic healing, and I have to go 20 points at least into honor. And when I get there, I kind of say, if I'm already 20 points in, I have to get pure voice. So I'm sort of stuck in that rut there.
Gotcha. All right, so let's talk about the different utilities. We kind of talked on them a little bit. Consecrations are the sort of things you throw on the ground. Meditations are things that deal with conditions and also allow you to actually move around. That's your mobility skills. Shouts are things that grant stuff to your allies. Signets, we've already said, nah, don't go with those. Those are passive things that can be activated, but they don't seem to work too well on the Guardian. They don't work too well on any class as far as I have found so far. Like, not as a full build. Like, ideally, there's all these things that give you signets, like signets recharge faster, signets don't lose their passives, signets this, signets that. And you go through, and if you get all those traits that make signets better, and then you run an all signets build, it still sucks. I found that to be true with almost all of the classes that I've tried it on so far. Somebody's going to prove me wrong in the chat, I'm sure. But, and then you have the spirit weapons, which are basically little pests you can summon for about 20 seconds that each have their own little special command that you can use. Like the hammer will do the knockback, which again, I love the knockback effect. So out of all of these, it seems like everybody's favorites are the shouts. But it also sounded like Judge's Intervention is another one that's useful for you guys, especially in the sort of PvP in situations. Any that we haven't talked about yet?
Contemplation or Purity.
Oh, yeah.
That is so good. Like right now, my build is 0, 0, 10, 30, 30, and I go with meditations reduced by 20%. I take Hold the Line, Stand Your Ground, Contemplation and Purity. That break stun and remove all your conditions on Contemplation and Purity pretty much makes you invincible. Because if they just spam all the conditions on you, Contemplation and Purity, you're good to go. And after that, you can just remove conditions one by one with your Hold the Line, Stand Your Ground, the F2, just the passive, degeneration of conditions by time. So I think that's a great spell.
Yeah, it's not even not only a removal, it's a conversion too. It makes them into boons.
Right.
I especially see that working really well with Save Your Cells. Like, draw all the conditions and then convert them into boons. That could work really well, like Save Yourselves and Contemplation of Purity. Is that something that people run? Because I just looking at that going, man, that would be cool.
But you pop 2 utilities on like pretty much a 40-second, 50-second cooldown, depending on what
that's
you want.
true.
You know what I mean? That's risky business.
I like to live dangerously. What do you think, VR?
I actually did a consecration build recently, and it was all consecrations because it was a healing build, but there are also combo fields, which if you're in a group, if you have all consecrations in your utility bar, you can have a combo field up nearly 100% of the time. And any time you hit a finisher, you get the combo. My problem was it worked great in confined areas, lords' rooms, tunnels and things. But in the open, people kite too much, and it wasn't effective. But I tried it. I think it could work in certain situations, but I went back to my standard AH build.
That's actually the same problem I had when I tried to make a condition damage elementalist for Worldview World. I was like, I can get tons of bleeding stacks if they would stand still long enough. So yeah, I gave up on that pretty quick. But yeah, I definitely see that. So shouts, very cool. Save Yourselves is just ridiculous. If nobody's ever seen this, you get Fury, which is 20% increased in crit chance for 10 seconds. Vigor for 10 seconds. You can dodge better. Might for 10 seconds. Protection for 10 seconds. And if it's not enough that you're taking less damage, you're regenerating for 10 seconds. You have swiftness for 10 seconds. And you have retaliation for 10 seconds. It is ridiculous. Very ridiculous. It is on a 60-second cooldown, but it does break stun, so it definitely has to be part of a bunch of different builds, I assume. Yes? Not in PvP? You don't like it in PvP?
They nerfed it down to 5 seconds.
Oh,
so
that's
it's pretty
right.
much not worth
That's
it.
right. That does change it a lot. That does sound a little overpowered, and it does make sense that they shut it down.
Amazing. When it was 10 seconds, and you put down the boon duration, so it's like effectively 15 or 16 seconds of all those buffs. Yeah, but now it's not so good.
Not so good anymore. All right, so any other final things to talk about with regards to the utilities? Anything we didn't cover yet?
Stand your ground, must have.
So that one, great stability. I think Yezhik mentioned that's a staple of his PvP build. That's really good in World v World, it looks like, too, especially because it breaks stun. That's got to be a big part of it.
I think it's probably good for anything PvE. I would think also. But.
It says grant stability to yourself and allies. Does it also grant them retaliation?
Yes.
Okay, so it's just the tip here is a little out of date because it does have the correct statistics, just the description. So, have you guys ever used a spirit weapon build ever?
Yeah.
I assume it might only be useful in PvE.
Yeah.
Yeah, the problem with it is like you have those really massive cooldowns. Even if you pick up like every spirit weapon trait you can get, it's just you're going to do lots of damage for a short amount of time, but you can't really control where they're going. They're pretty easy to kite, and they're pretty easy to avoid. But
as pets, they don't tank very well.
oh yeah. And they're kind of all over the place. Like your hammer's knocking them across the board, your sword's running over trying to get some more damage in.
It's
And
really
after
like
they
Beauty and the Beast. It's got like, oh, we got the fork helping out, and
yeah, they just don't get along. They don't know what they're doing. But they'll do a lot of damage. They'll really mess somebody up. But then when you're on a cooldown, you're just kind of dead in the water. I got nothing. All my utilities are dead. Not gonna happen.
All right, so we've got the elite skills here still to talk about. Now, underwater, it looks like renewed focus is your only option, which is disappointing because my understanding is Tome of Courage and Tome of Wrath used to be way OP. Have they changed them too much so that it's not way OP anymore?
Sorta.
What do you run in SPVP there, Yizik?
Since I'm heavily invested into virtues, I run renewed focus because I'm
Okay.
30 points into virtues.
Because it
But-
recharges your virtues. So you blow all your virtues, then you hit your renewed focus, all your virtues come back again, and you're invulnerable for a short period of time. How long does that last here? 3 seconds?
3 seconds, yeah. That's the important part, especially when you get focused or there's a Trebin coming and you don't have enough endurance. Just pop that real quick, and you're good to go for later.
There you go. All right, so Tome of Courage or Tome of Wrath, are those useful in dungeons or World v World, guys? Any particular comments on those?
Well, Tome of Courage used to be really good when it had stability on it. They kind of removed that, but it is good for certain situations, like especially when you're recovering from like agony and fractals, just to replenish the entire group's health if you want to do that. It's also got some other things because you can actually be healing without having to be on top of your target or being within shout range to do so. So you've got that ground targeted heal that you can throw out there too. Tome of Wrath is just kind of funny. So.
Yeah, that is.
It's funny? What kind of funny? Is it like clown funny? Like, why is it funny?
Well, so like when you activate it, it's one of the few ways. It's like the only way a guardian could get quickness and actually give it to other people. And also, just because when you are just spamming and he's saying the same line over and over again,
Oh, yeah.
especially with quickness up, he can't even complete the sentence. He's like blah blah blah. Oh man. But I actually wanted to say some things about a few of the utility skills. One of my favorites to actually use, especially if you have anything that buffs meditations at all, is Smite Condition. Smite Condition, especially with certain builds, like if you have a decent crit build or like a crit damage build or anything like that, along with all the survivability you're packing in, it does a good chunk of damage. And with the meditation cooldown tray, it reduces it down to 16 seconds. So 16 seconds, you're always pulling off a condition, and you're doing AoE damage at the same time.
I
So,
like anything with Smite in the name as a general rule.
Oh yeah, gotta feel the wrath of God, right? And also Wall of Reflection. Wall of Reflection has some really cool stuff that you can do in a lot of encounters with bosses. Like there's a boss in Twilight, our better boss, if you take the up path, you can reflect all of his poison volleys with a Wall of Reflection and just totally annihilate his health.
That looks useful.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
So, Vihar, what about the ultimates for World v World? The tomes or the renewed focus? What do you wind up taking usually?
I think that maybe in a very disciplined pre-made group they would be good, but what you have to understand about the tomes is they take away your 6 or 9 skills, and that's oftentimes a death sentence in World versus World. They see you with that book out there, and they're going to hammer you. And more often than not, I tried them. They got me killed more than they were helpful. So renewed focus it is. And I find the elite skills on the whole to be somewhat disappointing on the Guardian. I'd like a little more variety,
If it makes you
I
feel
agree.
better, the Elementalist is kind of like, yeah, okay, we can make a great sword on fire which is clearly the best legendary weapon in the game, by the way, because it only comes out sometimes. But I could definitely feel you on that. I mean, it's okay. It's kind of like the tomes. It's like, okay, some of these are good, and it's kind of better than nothing, but it's not quite the elite you would hope for when you think elite skills. Like Time Warp. Now there's an elite skill, you know? Turning somebody into a MOA, that's an elite skill. Using a portal, that's a utility skill. Damn it. All right. So what about these down skills on the Guardian? I know that every time I did get downed on my Guardian, I was like, ah, shit. That's not going to happen. So these are okay. They're not bad. What do you think? Sarat?
Well, like, Wave of Light's really good just for the big pushback. It's really good in SPVP, too. I think Yesik would agree with me there, just to get people from stomping you. Symbol of Judgment's pretty good if you can survive along to get that cooldown up.
Yeah.
Just because anybody that's coming over to res you, for whatever reason, they're going to get healed while they're in that symbol, so they're not as much at risk doing so.
And it looks like it also damages foes. So it's up for how long? Like 4 seconds, it looks like, somewhere around that range.
Yeah.
And guys, it's a combo field. If you need a light combo field, just let me die, and I'll throw Symbol of Judgment on the ground. Like, how is that? Because I know ArenaNet envisioned the group, like, working together. Like, you put down this, I'll do this, and then we'll go away, and then I'll jump in with my warrior. Like, oh, man, don't worry. Let me just die here. I'm pretty close anyway. And then you just have to protect me for 10 seconds until I can put this on the ground, and then you can have your light field.
Yeah.
I don't see that happening.
It is nice for tagging mobs, especially with like Wave and Symbol, just because if you get anybody, any mob that's in there, and then you just try to down one of those or kill one of those out just to get the rally, that's pretty good just having an AoE tag. So.
All right, so Yezek, the down skills here on the Guardian, compared to other classes, how do you feel these rank?
I think it's above average. The only thing I don't like about the down skill is the number 1 skill. It shoots like this lightning in sort of 3 successions. But the thing is that, like, let's say I'm doing, not a lightning, but it's a light, right? I'm doing this light and it pulses 3 times. And then I have to click on it again in order to attack again. So if I'm doing this light and it pulses once and then someone blinds me, the blind doesn't go off until I click 1 again. So I have to wait till all those 3 pulses fire off, then click 1 again, and only then can I knock someone back. Because if I knock someone back with my number 2 skill while I'm blinded, they don't get knocked back. And that's what I don't like about Guardian. Like, those 3 pulses, you know, don't get affected by blind. Like, you have to wait till the next cycle to remove the blind off.
Yeah. And,
you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand, because an engineer is just going to throw one piece of junk at him, and that's going to count as one ability. I can definitely see that,
right.
that, you know, especially when the time pressure is on when you're, like, downed. You want to get that wave of light at exactly the right time to prevent them from stomping you or doing something else, but if you're blinded, it's too late. It's too late. No good. So, all right, so I think we've pretty much covered everything here. Anybody in the chat have any questions for our guests about Guardians? Anybody, any of you guys have any final thoughts on the Guardian? Maybe something that we didn't cover? Wow, we've been thorough. I like it. Let me see. Do I have any questions left? Worst traits, best traits, PvP. Oh, yes. Why blue? You guys all love the color blue. How come?
Yeah. Go ahead, sorry. I guess you first, man.
Oh, okay. I don't know. It's always been like, well, I guess there's some continuity between the Guild Wars 1 stuff, but we're gonna get like really deep into like mythology behind it, right? Because like Guardians are kind of like this merging of like Paragons and Monks, like these support classes that were just all about being tough, right? And if you notice, like if you see the similarities between the Guild Wars 1, there's a lot of skills and a lot of traits that have just converted over. And the big monk color was just blue. That's how you identified it. It had the blue onk that identified the class. So I guess it just kind of carried over. So maybe they just don't like green or red. I don't know.
Fair enough.
All right.
Now, if I can find... Aha. So, I guess that's it then. Let me see. Chat room doesn't seem to have any specific answers or questions here for us. So I think we're probably going to call that a day. It was
I would like
definitely...
to say one thing.
Okay, go ahead. We got Vihar.
So they're talking about bringing in skills in World versus World at some point, you know, and there's a lot of cosmetic things that they do for people to work towards and everything. It would be cool if you could earn some sort of reward that would give you as a guardian, like instead of blue flames, you could pick purple or red or pick your own hue. So make each guardian like their own, you know, person as a little reward. Something simple like that, you know.
My magic is mauve. Mauve. Fuchsia?
Yeah, maybe that's not such a good idea after all.
I want midnight ice magic. Yeah, maybe not. Bragging rights.
What
for
are these
three
rays of light
guardians.
coming from? I don't know what color it is. Is that puce? I don't know.
Which one of you has Juggernaut? Somebody's got to have Juggernaut, right? Did somebody get Juggernaut? I know, Sarat, you said you've got Sunrise.
Yeah,
Somebody's
yeah, I do.
got Juggernaut. Juggernaut's perfect for a guardian, no? No.
If
damn
you're
it.
really a big fan of the Terminator movies, I guess. I'm not sure.
I don't know. It just seems like, guardian, tough guy. I don't know. I thought that's where it should fit. All right, I think I'm done. I think we're going to call it there. Thank you guys so much for joining me. It's been a great show.
Oh, thank you, Bridger.
This was
Thank you.
awesome.
Stay away from the scepter.
Stay away from the
No,
scepter.
no.
Well, I've learned a lot, certainly, about a Guardian. I only played mine to about level 15, so I was glad to have you guys on here to help me out with the info. And we will give you a quick chance. Yezik, are you in a guild? You want to give him a quick shout out?
Yeah. Oh, if I could. I'm in a band also, so I would like to give a shout out to that. That'd be nice.
It's going to cost you. You come on the show, you do a whole hour and a half with me, you only get one. I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
But yeah, I'd like to give a shout out to my guild, Vex Gaming, vexgaming.com, and my band Selva, facebook.com/Selva band. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank them for getting you here. Sarat.
Yep.
All right, we're on Engine and Robbie, and we're in a guild called Downed But Not Out. So,
that's
just
cool.
a little play on words there. Yeah, we're just a lot of close-knit friends and a lot of people that we've met through the online community. And we're welcome to come hang out and chill with anybody. If you want to come do some dungeons with us, hit me up. We could probably put my name in the show notes or something like that.
Yeah, we'll put it on the guild shout out. You guys can put in any your guild web pages, your names, whatever you want to put in there. Put your band website. Bam, there you go.
There you go.
All right, Vihar. What guild is stopping World versus
My guild
World?
is Rage. We're on Jade Quarry. We get a lot of friends on there. It's a great place. We're very happy to be there because we're one of those transfers. But it was a great choice. We've been having a blast, and the community's awesome.
Excellent. Excellent. And of course, I am with Team Legacy, which you can find on Koenig, doing some World v World. We do have an open TeamSpeak, so if you want to come in and play with us and you're on Koenig, it'd be a good time to do so. I think we're going to be running some World v World later on tonight. So I'm going to be doing that. I will see you guys later. Bridger signing off. We'll see you again in 2 weeks with an episode discussing all this Flame and Frost nonsense. Yes! I finally nailed the timing. I didn't have like 30 seconds of me just derping around on camera waiting for the song to end. Victory is mine. It's a
63 episodes. You got it right.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, man. But thanks, you guys. That was fantastic. That was one of the best class episodes we've had yet. Very cool.
Thanks.
Oh, thanks.
Hey, Bridger, how are things going on Caning, by the way?
I was on last night, and I finished the jumping puzzle. And also, let's see, we're playing against Tarnished Coast and Blackgate right now, and I think yesterday we were not doing so good. It's close, but when I logged on, it was like the afternoon, and we weren't doing so good. I tried to get on at night, and I was locked out. Oh well. I'll have to go and check it out right now.
I really like that guy. So.
I haven't looked into it today. I've been busy working on making this show and actually doing real work at work and playing League of Legends.
The show doesn't support you?
Yeah, right. You make a funny joke. All right, so I'm going to get going here. I might stream a little bit later, like in, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes. So I'm probably going to be streaming on the Bridger 15 channel if anybody feels like checking that out. Twitch.tv/Bridger15. I'll throw it in the chat there. Twitch.tv/Bridger15. So maybe I'll do some more League of Legends. Maybe I'll do something else. I don't know. It'll be a good time. No matter what. I'm in a mood to talk to everybody about all the things. And that's when you got to stream, you got to talk. So you know what it is? I've been like unable to talk for like the last 2 weeks because I've been, I can't, you know, coughing, etc. So, okay, I'm going to stop talking now. All right, thanks everybody for watching. Who did we get in there? We got like 66 people. That's a good time. It's a good time. It's a Monday. People didn't know the show got moved. 66 now.
We had more. It was like, I think 85 plus at one point. Yeah.
Yeah, everybody usually checks off once they realize the show's over. I try to I say, there'll be cookies after the show. No, stick around, really. Okay.
Just hold them up to the screen.
All right, so head on over to the Bridger 15 stream, guys. I'll be over there in a few minutes. I might try some more LOL rank to try to Mantheon without failing too hard this time. All right, bye, guys.